So we are at Lakou Café with the founder and owner of Lakou Café, Cassandre Davilmar, who is an entrepreneur based in New York City. We are here for the weekend with SheBuilds, with a wonderful community of women who are here to explore what it's like to do business in New York. And Cassandre is going to tell us a little bit about her journey as an entrepreneur, building Lakou Café from the ground up, and some of the challenges and opportunities that you've seen along the way. Right? So Cassandre, tell us who you are. Where are you from? Where were you raised? Where were you born? Who are you?
Okay, well, my name's Cassandre Davilmar. I'm the owner and founder of Lakou Café. I was originally born in Brooklyn, New York, at Brookdale Hospital in 1988. Here from Dragon. And unfortunately, early on in life, my father ended up passing away. He was an entrepreneur, and he had a business in Haiti. Unfortunately, we ended up colluding against him, and people that he knew ended up killing him. That brought us to Miami, Florida, where I grew up from the age of 3 to 21. I lived in Miami, Florida. I went to the University of Miami, and I ended up coming back to New York for law school, where I attended NYU Law, and then I graduated with my JD, and I worked at Clearing Gottlieb, Steen and Hamilton, doing M&A work and some leverage finance work. But I realized pretty early on that entrepreneurship was something that spoke more to me. I ended up getting an opportunity. It wasn't an entrepreneurial opportunity, but it was a step in the business direction to work as an investment banker at an M&A shop called Moelis and Company. So I did that for 2 years. I was finally in the rooms with the CEOs and all of that stuff, which was fun. I was taking notes. I was doing pitch decks. But I was learning about folks who have businesses where they're like, I don't know, selling the color of purple to make like plastic cups, you know? And I'm looking at who's on the executive team. And some of them don't even got a college degree. Some of them got bachelors. They're like in the Midwest. They went to no-name schools. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this is something I should pursue. I think a lot of women can relate to this. Like, the corporate grind was really getting to me, and I was about to enter my 30s, and that comes with a whole bunch of things, which is the responsibilities of taking care of your parents. And at that time, I didn't have children, but I definitely felt the weight of not necessarily being able to live as freely in the world as I wanted to. I started getting stress symptoms, like pain in my jaw. I was just like, I'm not happy here. I say that I had a quarter-life crisis. And during that time, my mom ended up moving to live with me because she needed my help, just help take care of her. And so I decided to do something for myself, which was be an entrepreneur. Little did I know, going into the food industry would make you a humble servant. And it was not going to be less hours. You know, in fact, it was more hours. And it was a physical grind, not only a mental and a time-wise grind, but it was a physical on your body grind. So yeah, I ended up, while I was working corporate, I moved to this neighborhood in Crown Heights, and it's the first free Black man's neighborhood in Brooklyn. And you know, that always inspired me. You know, being Haitian, like the idea of folks doing self-determination is always really inspiring. So I was just like, you know, I'm learning about the people and their intentions for this neighborhood, but I look around the neighborhood, and on Utica, which is a commercial strip, which is like the 4th largest transportation hub in all of Brooklyn, most of the storefronts are shuttered. Like on this block, you see a lot of businesses now, but 7 years ago, there was probably only like 2 businesses that were on the block, and everything else was just shuttered, like 4 rent signs. So I'm just like, you know, this neighborhood doesn't have a place where people could sit down and eat and get to know each other. And in my head, I felt like that's kind of like the building blocks of, you know, folks kind of, you know, I guess pouring love into their neighborhood. It's like you need to know your neighbors. But the thing is that when you're in a working class neighborhood, you don't got time for all of that, you know? But you do have time to stop and get a drink somewhere, and while you're waiting in line, long line at Lakou Café, you get to make a friend in the process. So that was at least my initial vision. Originally, it was just a juice bar concept, and I realized that does not pay the bills at all. I don't know how people do it. So with the feedback of customers, with the feedback of staff, our menu slowly started to develop over time. And, you know, we had a lot of folks who wanted vegan options. I'm Haitian, so of course I got to sprinkle Haitianness in it. So then we came up with this vegan fusion concept. Don't get it wrong though, about half of our menu does have meat options as well. It made sense to me because I grew up sexually Adventist. So I grew up eating vegan food and then I grew up eating chicken. I ate everything, you know? So I just wanted to create a space where everybody felt welcomed and everybody felt like there was something here for them. And then on top of that, they could learn about Haiti and they could be inspired to go back in the world and be their best selves.
Lovely. We'll let the blender go down a little bit. We'll have the one, so I don't want to pass that. I mean, so this is a brick and mortar business. That's acquired a space, remodel and redesign the space, probably get permits for that. Tell us a little bit about how that was. How some people who are thinking about getting their own space at some point, building a community, energy that you're talking about today, love it. What's that like for you? What do you have to go through and how long does it take to get a place where you're established?
Well, I wish I could say that it was like a super intentional 3-point plan, you know, but it wasn't.
Entrepreneurship is like that.
Yeah.
Building the plane while flying it sometimes.
Exactly. So initially, you know, this was something new for me. So I wasn't trying to get a huge space. I just wanted to get something that I could afford and that made sense. So I should say that prior to starting Lakou, I did already purchase a home. It was a 3-family home in Brooklyn.
Congrats.
And I did something that folks call rent hacking, which means that I have the tenants bring in rental income and that covers the mortgage. So what did that do? That allowed me to have very low cost of living in New York City. So I pretty much went from maybe needing $3,000 to $4,000 a month to live to now needing like $1,000 or $1,500 a month to live, which is like below the poverty line, right? So, but I can live, right? And so that informed the decisions that I made and the risks that I was willing to take. The thing with the brick and mortar is your business will fail if you're not able to cover your overhead expenses. So with Lakou, our overhead expenses were pretty low. I'll be transparent, like it's across the street they were charging maybe like $2,400 or $3,200 for a unit that was this size, and we got it for $1,600. But we have to put a lot more work into it. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is just I put a lot of. I'm not saying that this is the right way to do things, but I started off the business and I had $100,000 in the bank account. I thought that that was enough to start a business. It was not enough. I ended up taking a $100,000 loan, personal loan as well. So that means that I started this business with like $200,000. I probably needed $500,000 to $1 million to properly start this business. The sacrifice that I made is now that I'm the sweat equity, right? I'm here working like every single day, like pretty much for a year, like no days off. Eventually, you start to hire staff, and slowly you begin to promote yourself. Fortunately, like I said, it wasn't enough, so I had to start relying on credit card debt. I got into a whole bunch of debt. I thought that I didn't need, a good credit score at the time because I already got a property. What I need credit for? That's not the right way to think about things. The pandemic ended up coming, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is even a worse situation. But I guess the universe or so God, it was a time that actually allowed people to learn a lot more about Lakou Café and allowed us to also get grants. So my background as an attorney definitely kicked in when it came to writing, grant proposals. And then I should also back up. When I signed the lease for this unit, I negotiated it myself. And one of the things we put in was a right of first refusal to purchase the building if the owner ever intended on selling it. So it was always in the back of our mind that maybe if the stars align.
It's a divine intervention, but I think that legal background helps quite a bit, right?
Sometimes we put ourselves in a little box and there's other people who think bigger. And I won't attribute that solely to his sex, but I tend to be a more conservative thinker. I'm working on being a more of a blue sky thinker, as they say, like somebody who can think farther into the future and just think beyond what you have. and just see something bigger. So I would attribute that to him for making sure that we had a right of first refusal. Now forward to the pandemic, I'm able to write a whole bunch of grants. I'm able to get out of debt. And now we're finally starting to be able to grow the business. And I start to have a little bit more time. Maybe I'm only working 4 days a week now or 3 days a week, and I can breathe a little bit. And so I ended up joining like 10,000 small businesses. And they taught me leadership skills on just how to make a stronger team, how to inspire my staff. And I went from people leaving every 3 months or every 2 months to now people staying for a year, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. And then now you're really able to build a team, right? Now you're really able to have a management staff. Now you're really able to trust your business with people that, you know, you can start to think about bigger things and you know that they'll keep the ship running for you. So I joined a lot of programs throughout the year just to keep me inspired because entrepreneurship can be really lonely. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a student, I'm an academic, right? So then around this time of the pandemic, the landlord was having a hard time with his tenants. He's not even from this part of the city, like he lives out in Long Island. I ended up reaching out to him and saying like, hey, I see you're having issues. If you're interested in selling the building, I would be open to buying it. Well, let me tell you, around the time of the pandemic, when I got on grants, I was able to use it to pay off my debt, and my credit score ended up shooting up. And that was intentional because there was an EIDL loan that the government was giving out, and I would only be able to get that loan if I had good credit. So that motivated me to fix my credit. After 3 applications and denials, I finally did get the EIDL loan. The EIDL loan, I used it for my business, but guess what? It freed up revenue. So now I had additional cash flows in my business, and I had a big chunk of change that I could invest in. And so that could serve as the down payment for purchasing the building.
So you own this building?
Now I own this building. Wow. Interest rates going all over the place. I was able to purchase the building at a pretty good interest rate of like 6.5%, which was pretty good during that time. And it was through CDFI, so a community development institution, financial institution called True Fund, and they had a real estate program. There's other programs, but I just wasn't eligible for like SBA programs. But that's just to say, like, a lot of it was fortuitous, but at the same time, it was a little intentional. It's like setting yourself up for something that you can't really see yet, but along the way, you know, I guess preparation means opportunity. Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it. Now, I'm at a point where I'm able to have an additional stream of income for the business, which is rental income. This building has 2 rental units and then this commercial unit. I'm able to build equity. I have a team where during the pandemic, we also started doing catering. That has grown immensely. And honestly, that is what has made the business profitable. The day-to-day sales just help us be break even for the most part. But catering is what brings in a profit. It's renovation. So I did the first go around for the business, and I had a lot of mistakes because I didn't have a hospitality or culinary background prior to starting Lakou. Shout out to Brooklyn Blend, who has several locations throughout Brooklyn. They knew my background and they knew my intentions, and they were still willing to hire me for a few months so that I could learn a little bit about the operational side of having a juice bar, and they do serve food as well. So I did that for a few months, and I thought that was enough. It was not enough. So the initial layout that I did do, it held us, you know, we made it work, but it was costly, honestly. I needed more staff to operate the space. My staff was tired. They were, you know, it was tough. So after purchasing the building, now I'm in a position to actually really invest in the space, and it makes sense. Because I told you I spent $200,000. That's not equity. That just disappears. I mean, yes, you use it to build your business, but if the business closed in COVID, the landlord would have gotten everything, and I would have gotten nothing. But now as an owner, whatever upgrades you make to the building now belong to you. So it made more sense now to pour into making the space make sense for us. I did think about making the whole building commercial. That felt a little risky to me, especially because we were in the post-pandemic inflationary period, and I didn't know what customer traffic would be like. So I'm just like, let me just make what we have work better. And that's what I did. I was telling the ladies that I ended up designing the space myself. And that's because I was speaking to other business owners, which I loved how their spaces look, and they all designed it themselves too. The fun thing about entrepreneurship, and it's a double-edged sword. It's the hard thing about entrepreneurship is that you get to wear many hats and you get to dabble in the different parts of the business you love, and then over time you can figure out what you need to give somebody else and what you can focus on yourself. I would say right now what I'm focusing on is more strategy. Last year I gave birth to my beautiful daughter Phoenix, and that forced me to really hand over the reins of my business and not, for the most part, not be here at all, and instead to take more of an administrative role. And then once you hand over the reins, you can't take it back because people want their hours. But I would say taking care of her on a daily basis and going for walks and things like that has freed up my mind to be able to think more about how I want to grow the business. So right now I'm focusing on, I guess, the low-hanging fruit, which is expanding catering even more, especially given the uncertainty of the times right now, to pretty much go up the chain and go to the corporate, as a customer. And then I would say the next step is, because I feel like I have a solid staff, to consider opening a second location. So right now I want to do it differently. I want to consult a lot of people. I want to do the market research. I want to do it the right way. I want to find a place that has a big kitchen so that it can serve like as a commissary for this location, and as well as a place where we can knock out larger catering orders. In the long term, I don't know, but I'm open. Like maybe we can start working on consumer packaged goods, and have I know there are already these brands, but there can be more Haitian products on the market. Yeah. Right now, like I said, I love being a student. I am in the Tory Burch I'm the Tory Burch Fellow, and we just started this week, and I would recommend it for a lot of entrepreneurs. It's like just amazing, the women that are in the program who are at all different levels of their businesses. Some of them have their products in Target and all over the country, from food to playgrounds to just from professional services. So I'm using this as an opportunity to not only serve as a place where I'm working on my next steps, but also to think about all the things that I can do and expanding my network with women who are already doing those things.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. What I love about your journey, yes. What I love about your journey is that it started off as something that you were not familiar with at all. You studied law, and you went into your background of how to navigate the challenges of your business. Small steps, pivoting, and then building the plane while flying it and trusting your own skills, right? Which is not something that everybody's able to do. And I've heard you say, I didn't know what I was doing, but you did know what you were doing, right? Subconsciously, all the things that you accumulated in your career, in your journey, were feeding some of the decisions you were making that has led you here. You made a strong real estate decision, and now you're an owner, and now you're thinking about expanding. That's cool, right? So I want us to clap for that. That is, thank you. She is an owner. She is not a renter. She is an owner. So as we wrap up this exchange and learning about who you are and how you've gotten to this journey, what is some advice that you would give to other women entrepreneurs who are thinking about jumping into a business if they're still from the world, or who are in it and are trying to?
So I think what I want to tell folks is that when I first started the business, I was insecure. I wasn't somebody who standing in my conviction. I kind of went where the wind blew me a little bit, and I feel like I'm not giving myself enough credit in the sense that yes, I did have a vision and I went for it, but I can't say that I was my truest self. And the one thing about entrepreneurship is that it will make you a better person. It will make you kind of look in the mirror and figure out what you need to fix to progress. Because at the end of the day, if there's a problem, you got to figure out a way to fix it. You can't blame anybody. You just have to be solution oriented. And so I think along the process, I just learned that I really needed to stand firm in myself and follow my intuition and, just put my lady boss pants on, So for that, I'm grateful. And then for the other thing is I would just say along the journey, I kind of doubted things along the way in the sense that, I worked in as an M&A attorney and an M&A lawyer and also M&A investment banker. And these folks make like $1 million a year. You know, I'm seeing my friends become partners and, you know, seeing people become managing directors. And I'm just like, did I make the right choice? Like, I could be living, and I'm working so hard, I'm working nonstop, but I'm not making any income. Like, is this the right choice? And there were times when I thought about selling the business or giving up. Like, I'm talking about serious conversations about selling the business to potential buyers. But eventually I decided to keep on going. And now I'm at a point where, you know, I'm able to take care of my child, like, for the most part, 24/7 with the help of my mother. The mother that I thought, you know, she came here so that I could be her caretaker, and now she's taking care of me. I'm happy to share any resources because at the end of the day, like, you know, you can give people the whole playbook, but ultimately you have to make it happen, you know? So I have no problem just sharing any resources or anything. You know, feel free to share with me things that you think might help me as well. You know, we all, like, it goes both ways.